Hey, welcome. Today we're going to dive into the truly fascinating world of the Religious Society of Friends. You probably know them as the Quakers. We're going to figure out how one single radical idea ended up creating one of the most unique and, frankly, enduring community structures in all of history. So, right off the bat, here's the central puzzle. It kind of sounds impossible, right? How do you build a community that lasts for centuries with absolutely no priests, no official leaders, and no voting? They've been doing it for over 350 years, and it's worked. So how in the world did they pull it off? Well, the answer starts with one simple but totally revolutionary idea. All right, section 1. To understand the Quakers, you have to start here. Everything, and I mean absolutely everything about their community flows from this one core concept, the inner light. It's the spark. It's the thing that explains everything that comes after. So what is the inner light? It's the belief that of God, a piece of the divine, is inside every single person, no exceptions. And if that's true, it means you can have a direct line to the divine. You don't need a priest or a pastor or anyone else to translate for you. It's a total game changer. And this is the moment it all clicked for George Fox, the guy who started the Quaker movement. He had this massive realization that the ultimate spiritual authority wasn't some person or a special book or a fancy church building. It was an inner voice that could speak directly to his life, right where he was, to his condition. And here's the huge takeaway from that. If everyone has this inner light, then nobody's light is more important than anyone else's. It just completely flattens the whole spiritual pyramid. This is what's meant by the priesthood of all believers. In a Quaker meeting, everyone is the minister. Okay, so you might be thinking, wow, that sounds really individualistic. If everyone has their own direct line, why would you even need a group? But here's the paradox. That very belief created the absolute need for a super strong, tightly knit community. You have to remember, early Quakers were seen as seriously dangerous radicals. I mean, they wouldn't bow to the king. They wouldn't take oaths. They wouldn't fight in wars. Because of that, they were thrown in jail, they were hit with massive fines, and their property was just taken. So for them, building a community wasn't just a nice idea. It was literally a survival mechanism. In fact, the very first organized Quaker groups were called Meetings for Sufferings. Think about that name. Their purpose was 100% practical. They were basically mutual aid societies. They had to take care of the families of people who were in prison, help the poor in their group, and just generally manage the chaos that came from living out their beliefs. This is where their community was forged, in the fire. Okay, this slide right here is basically the DNA of the whole Quaker community structure. You can see how these ideas just lock into each other perfectly. It all starts with the belief in equality. Because of that, you need a community that has no hierarchy. And the ultimate goal of that community is to find spiritual unity, to figure out God's will together. See how one flows right into the next? It's a really elegant system. So if the big goal is unity, but you can't vote, how do you actually get there? Well, that brings us to the really unique machinery, the practical tools Quakers came up with for making decisions as a group. Let me tell you, a Quaker business meeting is unlike any meeting you have ever been to. Seriously, it's not about arguing your point or trying to win a debate. It's actually considered a form of worship, where the entire group is trying to listen together for something deeper, for a collective sense of what they're being led to do. It's not about what's popular, it's about what's true. So how does this actually play out? Well, the process starts and ends in silence. There's a person called a clerk, but they don't run the meeting like a chairperson. Their job is to just listen. To listen for what's called the sense of the meeting as it emerges from the group. And if they think they've heard it, they'll propose a statement. But if even one person feels a sincere block, a real, I can't go along with this, the whole thing is put on hold. No vote. It's just postponed. And this is a really, really important distinction to make. Quaker unity is not the same thing as consensus. Not at all. Consensus is usually about compromise, right? It's finding a middle ground that everyone can kind of live with. Unity is different. It's about searching for a third way, a higher truth that maybe nobody even walked into the room thinking about. And to get there, you have to be willing to let go of your own personal preference. This whole way of being extends to personal life too, with this amazing tool called a clearness committee. Let's say you're facing a huge life decision, a job change, a move, a marriage proposal. You can ask for a clearness committee. A few people from the community will gather with you, but here's the key. They will not give you advice. Their only job is to listen deeply and ask you really thoughtful, open-ended questions to help you find your own inner clarity. It's just a profound way of caring for each other. But this system, as incredible as it is in theory, is also pretty fragile. It's been tested hard throughout history, and it's still facing some big challenges today. The single biggest test was something called the Great Separation back in the 1820s. Basically, a huge theological fight just ripped American Quakerism in half. You had one group, the Hicksites, who doubled down and said the inner light is the ultimate authority. And then you had the Orthodox group, who started focusing more on the Bible as the primary authority. The system of finding unity just couldn't handle that level of disagreement, and the whole movement fractured. And you can still see the effects of that split today. It's pretty shocking, actually. Only about 11% of Quakers around the world practice that traditional, silent, unprogrammed worship we've been talking about. The vast majority, almost 90%, belong to what are called programmed churches, which have pastors and sermons and hymns, a structure that looks a lot more like mainstream Protestantism. And all of this really points to a key challenge in the modern era, the slow erosion of what they used to call corporate discipline. See, in the past, the community really held its members accountable to their shared values. It was a group effort. Now, there's a much bigger emphasis on individual freedom and comfort, which can sometimes mean less focus on that collective responsibility. Just listen to this quote from the 18th century Quaker John Woolman. It gives you a perfect sense of what that corporate discipline looked like. He's saying that if you're a rich businessman, how you spend your money and how you treat your employees is everybody's business. He was arguing that the community had a right and a responsibility to hold you accountable for economic justice. Talk about radical. And that really leaves us with this final challenging question. What is a community for? Is its main purpose to make us feel good, to feel comfortable and supported? Or is it to hold us accountable to something bigger, to a shared radical vision for a better world? That is the core tension Quakers are wrestling with today. And honestly, it's a question that pretty much every community has to answer for itself.